Um,
He
the,
was saying his,
Helio, I'm speaking to him. Can you hold on?
he was
Damn, dude,
originally
you want
talking to
to?
me,
Yeah,
but
bro.
No,
anyway.
no,
Hold
no, no.
on, bro.
You've been hogging the mic all freaking night. Can you wait a second?
Yeah, and that's what I was confused about is because I didn't know, like, my stance on celestial bodies is kind of confused because I'm new to this whole thing. Like, I think about a year ago, I spent a while arguing with a lot of you guys, and then the more I did research, the more I found that you guys were right on most of what you were talking about. So I'm fairly new to it, and I was talking to my friend about it, and I don't really know how to explain like rocks falling from the sky because
Yeah.
I don't really
Okay.
know anything about that, you know?
1 second. At the end, I want to ask you a question. Well, I'll ask the question now, and then at the end, I'll let you answer it. Which would be, can you remember any of the things that we told you that you researched that we were wrong about? But don't answer that yet. Um, Again, I don't know this to be true entirely. There is some evidence for it. It's quite hard to find any of said evidence, obviously. I don't know if it's, again, even the evidence that's posted could be complete bullshit. You know what I mean? Just people writing stuff, making stuff up, right? So this is
Yeah.
completely like, this is almost like me speculating about something that I read that I don't know whether or not is valid. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Um,
Yeah.
mo-
So,
Most of the
so
meteors, the rocks that are have people
yeah,
say they find on top of, let's say, ice or properties. There is the other phenomenon called cryometeors, which is like huge, very
genders.
heavy pieces of ice that fall in people's properties and make holes in the ground. Yes, ice has fallen from the sky. That's one of the phenomena called cryometeors. And then there is the other phenomena, which is
Gently, I was
pieces
about
of
to say something.
yeah, but I'm not done with my whole spiel about the
Alright.
phenomena that I've been looked to billing because Helio's been interrupting. So yeah, um,
I know
so
you shouldn't have let me speak at all, was my point then. Sorry, I didn't realise I interrupted you. Go ahead, dude.
no, you didn't interrupt. I mean, I just wanted to finish a point, and I wasn't allowed to. So that's why I'm jumping in. So there is other phenomena which people say they find rocks on the surface of glaciers and long distances covered by ice. So there is this phenomena that people say they see this meteor. They have observatories looking at the sky, and they say, "Yeah, we're gonna follow this kind of track," and they find rocks. The content of most of these rocks are actually iron dioxide, which is a very magnetic property, a magnetic um, uh,
Yeah.
rock, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I wouldn't discard rocks falling from the sky or ice falling from the sky, which is phenomena that people have reported. So
Well,
saying
yeah.
no to it,
You-
saying completely no that doesn't happen, that will be a baseless claim. Saying yes might be a baseless claim, but I will say that either or wouldn't
That's
discard the
that's the weird part though, is that she lives in Arizona, so it's a very hot place, and she's noticed that she's seen meteor showers, she's had properties land on Earth where she sees like an impact site and like a piece of rock at the center of it. There's obviously no ice there because it's too hot. So it's
yeah.
just I've just
But that's
I don't
Arizona is not the whole world, right? Arizona is not the whole world. So I'm just talking to you about phenomena that happens all around the world.
Yeah,
So yeah.
no. I was just trying to figure out how to explain it to her because she's interested in the flat Earth. She has a hard time understanding. Well, if the Earth has a firmament, she's like, well, how do I have like rocks falling from space? And I'm like, I don't really
Mm,
know the answer to that. So I told her
Well,
I
that's
would.
the thing that now you're going into this place, space, right? Then
Well, that
that's where
I was just telling you
where
what
you.
she. Yeah.
Yeah, but has she shown you like the photographs or
Oh yeah, of course,
the
of course. Me
can
and
you
her have been
show?
friends for a long time. I used to live super close to her, and then we both moved away, but we kept in touch. So she's
All right.
she
Can you share one of the photographs that she showed you about the whatever fell from the sky? Has she tested the composition of the rock that fell from
no,
the sky?
she's not that advanced. She's not super into science. We were just talking. She was
It'd be
telling
really
me.
cool if you could get an image of one of those meteorites. I know exactly what meteorites are supposed to look like. How big are we talking these pieces of so-called meteorite
She
are?
said
Because
I mean, she hasn't sent me any pictures. Me and her were just on a call, like probably
okay,
maybe like 2 hours ago, and we
can
were
I ask,
talking about it.
can I ask another
Hey,
question? You said she's interested in flat Earth, correct?
Yeah, of course.
In what way? Is she
Um,
critical of it? Positive about it? What?
well, she's both. So, she grew up learning. I mean, everybody grows up learning about the globe Earth. If you grow up in the public school, you learn about the globe Earth. But the more that I tried to explain to her the stuff that I, learned in here, the more interested she was. And she was like, "Well, that's actually really interesting. Like, a lot of it makes a lot of sense." And then she started posing. I mean, she's very smart, but she posed a lot of questions too. She was like, "Okay, well then what about this and this and this and this?" Which I understand because I did the same thing. I mean, I joined this Discord. I got banned from this Discord server like
I
3 times
remember you.
for asking too many questions.
Yeah.
I I was just that's my nature. I ask a lot of questions until I
Have you ever heard of so basically, right, when it comes to, let's say, sand, for instance, right? So
yeah.
you know anything about sand, right? Um,
And
it, you can melt it down, right? Turn it into glass.
yeah, turn it into glass. Yeah.
Yeah, iron itself, right? That is, let's say, one way that we get iron for swords is one of the ways the Vikings did it, right? Which is
Yeah.
the shorelines of Norway. The
Yeah.
moss that lays on those shorelines, right, works
Yeah.
as a really brilliant filter, right? And you grab and pull that moss and you go and put it in your furnace or your kiln and you cook it down and eventually end up with some iron ore, right? The Japanese have their own methods. This iron ore can be known many
Yeah.
different names. Tamahagari, they call it in Japan, right? So if you look at the composition of that, right, that's a forceful formation of iron ore. When we look at meteorites, there are different trace metals in there also with it, so it's an alloy, right? It's
Yeah.
done under high heat and high pressure. Okay, so this stuff that I was talking about, where I put the disclaimer at the front, James. That's why I was like, oh, why would you say something? Because then I have to say the disclaimer again. I'm speculating on something that I had read, sorry. That then I writ back to the person. They send me some more information on this. And they were talking about basically electromagnetism. They were talking about the idea of, like, that frogs can effectively be carried in clouds, and fish have fell from the sky and stuff like this, right? You've heard of these phenomena before, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is that in sandstorms, and in highly, highly charged airways across vast continents and stuff like this, well, not really continents, but you know what I'm saying. That potentially there's the potential that through the electro charge and the electromagnetic charge, there's something called slag that's ended up to be picked up. And the slag ends up being basically formed naturally, almost creating like a natural iron ore that would be created in the upper altitudes and then eventually thrown back down at a different location once it got too heavy. Um, and the idea is that these things would form together and be pulled together while they're very lightweight from lots of different locations and eventually end up together. Something that actually completely flies in the face of gravity, because it would do this above an Earth that effectively has a mass that's so large that these things should never be able to push toward one another and eventually, like, sort of grab onto one another. But, well, the people that talk about gravity admit electrostatics, electromagnetism is really powerful. But this, in essence, is potentially another concept for it, because when we look at what Gemsy was saying and what I briefly spoke on before, which is that there are 6 points on the Earth, right?
Yeah.
All
You guys are
meteorites predictably from. So if that, how they end up coming down from there, be it speculation again, be it pieces of a so-called specularized dome, fracturing and breaking off, albeit that it's something that's collected from the ground through some phenomena that's impossible to really track because it's
Yeah.
something that happens either instantaneously or in crazy weather areas, right?
Do you
I
know?
don't know.
This might be useful for you guys because I know you guys talk to a lot of people who aren't fully invested in the idea, or maybe possibly invested in the idea of flat Earth. If you guys are interested, I can explain to you what made me actually believe in the same field that you guys believe in. I don't know if you guys are interested in that, but it wasn't any of your arguments. It was something that I found out on my own.
What is it?
So the first actual picture of Pluto was, quote unquote, picture of Pluto was taken in July of 2015, right? And as a kid, I was so in love with space. I got my first telescope when I was 8 years old. I was very, very intrigued in all of space and everything. But I found out that the first real picture of Pluto was taken in July of 2015. But when I was a kid, I used to have a placemat on the table where I would put my plate on. It was the entire solar system. I was so in love with space. And I noticed that there was a picture taken of Pluto. The first ever close-up picture taken of Pluto was in 2015. But when I was 6 years old in 1997, that I had a placemat with Pluto on it. How did we know what Pluto looked like? How did we know what any of these planets look like? There's plenty of planets that I've seen pictures of in school books that were published 10, 15 years before the first ever picture of the planet was ever actually taken.
Oh yeah, of course. This is openly admitted.
And
This is a point we make
I'm
all the
like,
time.
well, yeah, but my main question is, okay, well, I've studied all of this. I've studied this in astronomy and all this other stuff, but you just found this picture 5 years ago, and you're going to tell me that that's the picture, that's what this planet looks like? And now that they launch a new telescope, now they're like, oh, well, all the planets look so different than what we expected. It's like, none of it makes sense. Have you seen their pictures of Neptune recently?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
basically just a gigantic rainbow with some weird like cosmic sphere around it. None of it makes
Yeah,
sense.
dude.
None of
Look
it
at how
makes sense.
ridiculous they are. Look, let me show
It
you.
is ridiculous. That's my biggest problem is that I feel
Look at
like
this.
everything that they try to explain is just so, it's not even believable anymore. I feel like I'm reading science fiction every time I see
Yeah,
a new.
dude. If you think you're reading science fiction, I need to show you something. This is what was on my newspaper the other day. Okay, just wait for it. For some reason, it's taking a little while for my thing to load. Sorry to cut into you there, dude. I
No,
didn't mean to do.
fine, it's
I'm new back, and I've been away
so
for 6 months.
so confusing now. It's like it's so impossible to know what's real and what's not.
Yeah, right.
I feel like I'm being lied to nonstop.
You are. I don't know the best way. Maybe one of us could read the informational blurb on it as well. I'll try and post.
Live stream voice chat, is that what you're on right now?
Yeah, live stream voice
Are you
chat would be the best place. I'll just post like all of them because I don't know which one I did. I did one that was like a collage, but I think I info
Okay.
in. I'm posting it now. It should be on.
Do you guys believe that there are like other cosmic like entities out there, like stars and all that other stuff, or
Cosmic entities? In what way are we speaking on this right now?
like as far as I mean, I can only go off of what I grew up knowing. It's like I don't know the lingo that you guys use. I don't know the definitions for everything. I'm not trying to be picked apart here. I'm just
No,
talking,
I mean, do you mean angelic beings? Do you mean
like when I look up at the sky and see all the stars, like what do you think that is? Because
well, the
that's
stars?
confusing.
Effectively, it's just it's a clock at the same time as it is for signs and it is for seasons. Okay, so we'll quickly go back to that. Do you want to look at what I posted in the live stream? This is what apparently NASA have just spotted.
Death Star. They spotted the Death Star.
Yeah, that's apparently a real image.
That's funny. There's no way. Really?
Yeah. By the way, this is either the fourth or third one that they found. But by the way, this isn't new. They found 3 or 2 prior to this one.
Is that not troll like a National Enquirer, like a troll newspaper?
No, it's not, dude. This is the Daily. This is the Daily Mirror, I believe, of England. Yeah, even have Brian Cox talking on it.
So he's asking about what star might be, and we're giving him what star is definitely not a Death Star.
Yeah, because like I'm trying to.
You said science fiction, and it just came to mind instantly that I saw this in my newspaper the other day.
So that's an amazing find you got there. Correct.
Number one, I want to apologize because I came in here like a year ago and I was very. I
remember.
Yeah, I was confused though because I studied mechanical engineering and astrophysics. So I thought that I knew everything about everything, and then I learned that most of what I learned was a lie.
Dude, you've been greatly humbled, and we appreciate that. Like, I appreciate that. It's not that you're stupid or anything like that either. AJ, I really do remember you, and I saw you there, and I was like, "Oh, he's muted. I'm gonna unmute you." And
I remember.
I was wondering where you would be at. A lot of the problem with the scientific field, especially with physics and astronomy and everything, right? It's a grant-based led system, so they need real discoveries to ask for money. They need something to put on paper in order to show to people higher up. In order to.
But that was the problem is when I started studying it on my own. So like once I graduated, like I was out of college and I was like I have a few telescopes that are multiple thousands of dollars. And I started studying things on my own, and I was like, "Wait, none of this is what they were talking about." Like,
good for you, AJ. I want to say good for you. I don't congratulate you for that because that is very good, and you don't have to keep apologizing. Like we understand, and welcome to the real world. Welcome.
Well, it's hard. It's hard because you go into college and you think you're going to study the stuff and then make a good job out of it. I fully wanted to just be, an astronomer for NASA. And the more that I studied it on my own, once I got out of college, I was like, I don't really know that all of this is true. I was like, I don't know that everything that I'm going to be doing is accurate. And then when I started getting deeper and deeper into it, I was like, I don't really know that any of this is accurate because like I've been to NASA facilities, I've done internships at NASA facilities. Having my minor being in astrophysics and all that stuff, they obviously want you to intern and all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, why can I look up at the night sky from Earth and I could see stars? But then when we look at a digital image of Mars, there's no stars in the background, there's no galaxies in the background, there's nothing. And then when you look at like a far out image from the ISS or from the new James Webb, I've seen images from the new James Webb that haven't even been released yet. And I'm like, why is there nothing else out there?
You might appreciate this. I ran into a guy once. I was hanging out in a bar, and I ran into a guy, a very intelligent guy that had a master's degree. And I was telling him that, sometimes I regret myself not going to college. I went into the trades instead, but he told me no. He said, you did the right thing. He said, I hate that I went to college because all I learned was how to lie. And that I thought that was really profound, and it hit me, and I thought, wow, I've never heard that before. But that's basically all he learned was just how to lie.
And that's not what I want to be. And it's very difficult. I've joined a completely different job field since then. I actually got lucky with a really good job. I'm making a lot of really good money because of my experience in engineering. But still, it's like I feel like I've wasted so much time, and I feel like the majority of what I learned is like just a complete fallacy because I can't prove any of it. And that's the worst
It
part.
brought you. It brought you here, though. It brought you to where you are today. So
Yeah, but with engineering, it's like I can prove engineering. Like I can build something and show you how it works. I can give you the ins and outs of everything. Like even with the rockets from SpaceX, they're fantastic. Like they're an engineering marvel. The fact that they can go up and they can go around and they can land back down, that's amazing. I'm
if
very
it's real,
impressed. It's impressive.
if it's real,
It's so impressive.
if it's real,
It's an engineering marvel. But when I look at all this other stuff, it's like if you're in the International Space Station, you should have the most spectacular view of stars that anybody has ever seen in their life. If that's the way that the world is built, right? But for whatever reason, the second that people supposedly leave the Earth's atmosphere, it's just darkness everywhere. How does that make any sense? It doesn't make sense. I go outside.
No one leaves the Earth from
Yeah, I go
in a
camping outside
rocket.
the city, and my light and the world is full of stars, and I see the Big Dipper, and I see the Little Dipper, and I see all sorts of crazy stuff. And then the second people are supposedly in space, there's just nothing anywhere. How does that make sense at all? It doesn't. There's nothing. It's just blackness.
Because you to come to the conclusion that the Earth is a curving, spinning ball in the vacuum of space, you will have to discard all of your senses to come to that conclusion.
I agree, and I would argue that honestly, I don't even discredit that space is real. I mean, the Bible says God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens exist, right? But all the
Yes, the
videos,
heavens exist.
yeah,
There's
exactly,
multiple layers above our heads. There is the ground below your feet,
exactly.
and we are in a realm between heaven and earth. So we're
But
standing on earth, and then
yes,
there is the heavens above.
yes, but the argument is that people in space, all of the videos of space that you see is just pure darkness. That's not what I see. Like I can sit here living where I live and look up at the sky and see that there's way more to it, but for whatever reason, the second these people supposedly leave Earth's atmosphere, there's nothing. That's
Well, they
not
want to put themselves in a place in your mind like they are the most high. They are standing above you as the most highs, but that's not true.
well, the only conclusion is that space is a lie. The way they explain it to us, that they're not actually leaving. They're, if they are actually even up there, if
there are
that does
some
actually exist.
there are some really convincing videos, where they have water that squirts out of a bottle and it floats around and all that stuff. Like
There's
there's
also
some
some
stuff.
really shitty videos though that
Yeah, no, there's
wires and all kinds of shit.
there's definitely some really shitty videos. I completely agree. There's some stuff that looks very real. There's some stuff that looks very shitty.
And you
It's
can fake all that water stuff easily. You can do it in a plane, in that whatever that plane is called that they do the 0G plane thing. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'm not.
Vomit Comet. The Vomit
yeah,
Comet.
I'm not
the vomit
experienced.
comet.